Coming into number 10, we have Ring a Ring a Roses. I think that North America and the UK have slightly different wordings for this nursery rhyme, but they have the same dark origin. In the UK it goes, ring a roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down. Do I have to sing them all? Have I set this precedent now? Ugh. I know in some variations people say ashes, but either way, as some of you may know, this cute little nursery rhyme kids sing whilst holding hands in a circle is actually about the majority of Europe dying from the plague. The all fall down bit, where these days kids throw themselves on the floor, is literally about dropping down dead. How dark. Ring a Roses is about the red rash plague victims would notice at the onset of this sickness. The pocket filled with posies is about the herbs and flowers people would smell that they believed protected them from the plague. The tissue is a sneeze, which was also a symptom, and the ashes bit was about how bodies of victims were burned. What a cheery song. Coming in at number 9, we have Eeny Meeny Miny Mo. Just when you thought that learning to count via a cute little nursery rhyme was safe, you find out that actually the poem was hella racist. Not cool. So in the UK we say Eeny Meeny Miny Mo, catch a piggy by its toe, if it squeals let it go. In the States I'm pretty sure that they say tiger. Anyway, in the original it was not an animal at all, but the N-word. The rest of the rhyme was also pretty awful. It was the N-word, and then if he won't work, let him go, skidum skiddy skidoo. Getting kids to count and teaching them deep set racism at the very same time? Awful. Coming in at number 8, we have It's Raining, It's Pouring. I used to like singing this one because I think I found the prospect of snoring kind of funny as a kid. The rhyme goes, it's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring. He went to bed and bumped his head and couldn't get up in the morning. Why? Oh, because he's dead. Apparently. The origin of the story here seems to come from England, where we do love a good pint. It's thought that the man was a drunk, and a better place to hide from the rain and drown your sorrows than the pub, am I right? The nursery rhyme is a cautionary tale about drinking too much to ail your woes. If you take it too far, you might drunkenly bump your head and never get up in any mornings ever, because dead. Coming in at number 7, we have This Little Piggy. I loved it when I was really small and my mum would play This Little Piggy on my toes. This little piggy went to market, this little piggy stayed at home, this little piggy had roast beef, and this little piggy had none. And this little piggy went wee 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 all the way home. It's actually kind of fun to say even as an adult. Basically it would always end in a tickle and lots of laughter. Now though, as an adult and a vegetarian, when I think about it, I realise what the rhyme actually means. The piggy who went to market wasn't going shopping for lovely things to eat, he was the lovely thing to eat. He went to market to be sold, then killed, and then be eaten. Maybe some cows out there were eating roast pork just to complete the rhyme, I don't know. We should have known all along, the piggy who went to market was always the big chubby toe, the fattest and tastiest of all the toes. In August 2018, a tweet from Samantha went viral when she realised exactly this, and a lot of people were shocked too. Leave the piggies and the toes alone for that matter. Coming in at number 6, we have London Bridge is Falling Down. Long before Fergie decided to sing about London, 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 kids for centuries had been singing the old London Bridge is Falling Down nursery rhyme. It is thought that in parts the song refers to immurement, which is a centuries-old practice especially popular in the Middle Ages. People thought that human sacrifice would make a building stronger. The rumour was that dozens of children were bricked into the walls of London Bridge to stop it from ever falling. Dark. So dark. Next up we have a zesty rhyme with a very dark undertone. Coming in at number 5 we have Oranges and Lemons. Oranges and lemons say the bells of St. Clement's. What a lovely little tune. I also love a citrus fruit. What's not to love? I always forget the bit at the end that goes, here comes a candle to light you to bed, and here comes a chopper to chop off your head. Chip, chop, chip, chop, the last man is dead. I guess it was all there. From the off, it's pretty sinister. So it turns out actually that the bells of St. Clement's were execution bells. It seems executions always started off with the chiming of bells. The whole song is about death. Death by decapitation. Awful. Coming into number 4, we have Georgie Porgy Pudding and Pie. Turns out that Georgie Porgy is not legit. You may have heard of the rhyme. It goes Georgie Porgy Pudding and Pie kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away. Coward. Turns out the little Georgie here was a sex pest. Not okay. Georgie is thought to refer to Georgie Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham, a man who people speculated that King James I was actually in love with. There isn't any proof of this, but it is said that Villiers had wandering eyes and hands and was very fond of young women. It is said that actually he didn't really care for consent and he would force himself on women who actually said no sometimes. He sexually abused and raped them, and he was often then set upon by their husbands, the boys who came out to play, leading him to run away before he could be punished. It seems he was never truly punished because of the king's protection. Coming into number 3, this isn't okay, we have 10 Little Indians. I guess I should have seen this one coming. 10 Little Indians had another nasty variant using the N-word too, and here's the cover of a book of the Icelandic version of the song. Ugh. In 1868, a song called 10 Little Injuns was adapted and elaborated for a minstrel show, which isn't the most awkward thing about the story. Actually, the most awkward and scary thing is that the lyrics counted down from 10 with an Injun dying each stanza. Right, horrible. Coming into number 2, we have Peter the Pumpkin Eater. This one goes, Peter Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her. He put her in a pumpkin shell and there he kept her very well. I'll admit that as a kid I just enjoyed rhyming Peter with pumpkin eater, but on closer inspection the words are quite concerning from the off. Like, why couldn't Peter keep his wife, and what on earth do you mean he put her in a pumpkin shell? It turns out that actually the rhyme dates back to young and decidedly more religious America. Back then the rhyme was a warning to women, a warning that they had to be faithful else they might fall victim of comeuppance. You see, it seems that Peter found his wife was cheating on him. He then murdered her and hid her body in a giant hollowed out pumpkin. Cool. Thanks, Peter. It seems that there is a similar ditty from English folklore called Eeper Weeper about a chimney sweep who killed his second wife. Guys, stop killing wives. Just move on like everyone else. Finally, coming into number 1, this actually did quite shock me, I had no idea. We have Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. Sounds legit, right? A lovely garden. What's not to like? But wait, why is Mary so contrary? That means like conflicting, and that's kind of weird for a pretty girl in a garden. It turns out that the nursery rhyme is actually about Bloody Mary, Mary I of England, Mary Tudor. She was a formidable queen who reigned for just 5 years, in which time she managed to kill over 300 Protestants, earning her the name Bloody Mary. The nursery rhyme is actually about her spate of murders. The garden is a euphemism for her growing cemeteries, the graveyards filling up with bodies. Silver bells and cockle shells were actually instruments of torture, and the maiden was a device used to behead people. Honestly, I'll never listen to that the same ever again. Coming in at number 10, we have Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. So apparently Jack and Jill is actually an allegorical poem originating from France about the Reign of Terror, the end of the French monarchy. Jack refers to King Louis XVI, the last king of France. He fell down and broke his crown. Well, Louis met his end at the guillotine. Ugh. Shortly he was then followed by Queen Marie Antoinette, who, like Jill, made her fall from grace shortly after. The Reign of Terror was complete in 1793 when Antoinette was chopped. Coming in at number 9, we have Goosey Goosey Gander. This is another one of those secretly about religion things, and back in the day, religion often meant death. Oh. Did I say back in the day? So the rhyme goes, Goosey Goosey Gander, whither dost thou wander? Upstairs and downstairs and in my lady's chamber. There I met an old man who wouldn't say his prayers. I took him by the left leg and threw him down the stairs. To be honest, it already does sound pretty stressful. Basically, this is a Protestant Catholic thing. The story goes that when King Henry VIII created the Anglican Church, a lot of Catholic priests were understandably not very happy about it. Many refused to follow his Protestant faith and made secret rooms to pray in Latin. If they were found, they were often thrown down the stairs or simply put to death. So when Goosey Gander is thrown down the stairs in this rhyme, it's likely he was sent off to be murdered horribly. Cheery! Coming in at number 8, we have Lucy Locket. Nothing scarier than your loved one leaving you for another person, especially when that person is a courtesan, which is a much nicer name for prostitute. The little Lucy Locket rhyme goes, Lucy Locket lost her pocket, Kitty Fisher found it. Not a penny was in there, only ribbon round it. So yeah, the story goes that Lucy's beau left her and spent his money on buying Kitty for a few nights. Back in the day, in the 1700s, it also seems that locket was a word for, well, you have a guess. Coming into number 7, we have There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. Okay, actually this nursery rhyme is dark and scary in itself when you stop and think about it, regardless of its origin. The story is total chaos. It's about a woman who swallows a fly, but then ends up swallowing loads of other ridiculous things to try and catch the thing that came before it. First she swallows a fly, we don't know why, and yes, perhaps she will die. But then, in a bid for savior, she swallows a spider to catch the fly, then a bird to catch the spider, then a cat to catch the bird, and then a dog to catch the cat. Eventually, she ends up swallowing a horse, and yes, she dies, of course. Now, this is a whole lot of death and mindless consumption in one rhyme. A cautionary tale, sure, but is this appropriate? Coming into number 6, we have Ladybug Ladybug. The content of this one is actually super scary as it is. Have a listen. Ladybug Ladybug, fly away home. Your house is on fire, your children will burn. Except for the little one whose name is Anne, who hid away in a frying pan. I mean, it's pretty dark anyway, right? I guess it should be, because it seems that the rhyme originated from the Great Fire of London in 1666, in which much of the British capital was burned. Only 6 people died, but a lot of people were injured. Who Anne is? I have no idea, but I would never advise hiding in a frying pan. Coming into number 5, we have 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. See how they run. See how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tail with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? So this little ditty is said to refer to Queen Mary I, aka Bloody Mary. The 3 blind mice are said to be Protestant bishops, blind because of their religion. Mary famously went on a brutal murdering spree of Protestants, although she didn't cut off their tails, she burned most of them at the stake. Some reports do say that Mary was partial to a bit of dismembering, so when it came to her enemies, I don't know, maybe she did whip them off and bleh. Coming in at number 4, we have Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush. Here we go round the mulberry bush, so early in the morning. Like I want to sing it. La 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 la. I would never have guessed the origins of this one, honestly. It just sounds like people having a lovely little dance around a tree in the garden. Cool, right? Well, apparently the rhyme does come from a women's prison in Wakefield, England. The rhyme comes from the mid-19th century and is said to depict how female prisoners were made to exercise by running around a mulberry bush in the moonlight. Doesn't sound that scary? Well, try being a female prisoner in the 19th century. They weren't exactly treated very well. Coming into number 3, we have Sing a Song of Sixpence. This is one of my favourite nursery rhymes, and it's actually very, very popular in the UK. So it goes, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Wasn't that a dainty dish to set before a king? The king was in his counting house, counting up his money. The queen was in the parlour, eating bread and honey. The maid was in the garden, hanging out the clothes, when down came a blackbird and pecked off her nose. So apparently this little ditty was about the divorce of Henry VIII to his first wife Catherine of Aragon and the dissolution of the church as a result of the stringent Catholic Church's rules on separation. The blackbirds are said to be the bishop of the Catholic Church, who didn't like Anne Boleyn. The king was in his counting house bit basically refers to the money that the king was making from stealing the Catholic Church's assets. We all know how it ended between horny Henry and Anne Boleyn. Chopped. Once again, there are no heads. Coming into number 2, we have Little Miss Muffet. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. So apparently during the 16th century, some physicians, including Thomas Muffet, believed that eating spiders would cure certain illnesses. So the rhyme is about the fear patients felt when they were presented with arachnids to eat. Understandably, to be honest with you. Ugh. Finally, coming into number 1, we have Humpty Dumpty. So Humpty Dumpty is pretty dark. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. To be honest, it already sounds pretty grim for old Humpty. Turns out that egg is smashed. Although, in history, we actually don't think Humpty Dumpty was an egg. Historians think that Humpty Dumpty was the name of a cannon used during the English Civil War. Classic English dialogue dark humor there, giving a weapon of war a cutesy name. Honestly, we're dark and scary people. The story goes that King Charles I had a big old cannon, the aforementioned Humpty. He put it high up on a wall and used it to bombard and kill the enemy. Sadly for old Humpty, he was knocked off the wall thanks to a nasty retaliation cannon. The wall beneath Humpty collapsed and, like the rhyme goes, all of the king's horses and all of the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. In the end, Charles lost the war and was executed, so I guess it sucks to be Charles, really.
At number 10 we have Humpty Dumpty. Let's kick off this list with a classic. Everyone knows Humpty Dumpty. A dude sitting on a wall who's also an egg, and I'm guessing is very irresponsible. If you're an egg, you probably should avoid ledges. Your body is very round, you roll easily, and a fall from a few inches means certain death. It is really about a cannon that was used in the Second English Civil War. Humpty Dumpty was a common expression for something that was very large, very heavy. Sometimes they used this expression for massive artillery. Well, in one of the battles of the Second English Civil War, there was a cannon on top of a church nicknamed Humpty Dumpty. It was blasting away men left and right. Because of this, it drew fire of the opposing forces, the church got blasted, then Humpty Dumpty was having that great fall that everyone was talking about. The real story is much more intense, but I like the idea of an egg with makeup on pouting on the side of a wall. That's very funny. We have Peter Pumpkin Eater. It seems pretty innocent. I mean, I don't know if I would be scared by a dude who eats pumpkins unless he's like eating a raw pumpkin standing in my room in the dark. Then that would creep me out probably. But even though this nursery rhyme sounds like a strange gourd-eating dude who has a lot of trouble keeping a girlfriend, it actually has a very dark twist. The rhyme goes, Peter Pumpkin Eater had a wife but couldn't keep her. Put her in a pumpkin shell and there he kept her very well. The whole part about having a wife and not being able to keep her was about his wife cheating on him. And then the part about putting her in a pumpkin shell, Peter killed his wife, chopped her up, and then put her body in a chimney. Oh my god. Please dude, calm down. It is very heartbreaking to get cheated on, but you don't need to go off the deep end like this. Ugh. Also, the reason it says pumpkin in the nursery rhyme instead of chimney for where he hid the body is so that the poem would have that amazing alliteration. You gotta take some creative liberties with something, even when the poem is about murder. At number 8 we have London Bridge. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. This nursery rhyme sounds more like a report, like someone ran in out of breath to tell the queen that London Bridge was falling down, remembered that she was a queen and was like, my lord or my lady, or like, you know, whatever they said to those people. However, the truth behind this nursery rhyme is even scarier. Apparently they used to do human sacrifices and place them at the bottom of bridges to make sure they would never fall. This song was a reminder to people that they must sacrifice people at the base of a bridge to protect it. Some people were killed in a way called tombing, where they would be cemented into a room that was at the base of the bridge that had no exit. The people in there would just stay there until they died from starvation or dehydration. At number 7 we have Baa Black Sheep. I fully thought the backstory on this one was going to be super racist, but thankfully it is not. The story goes, Baa Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. One for the master, one for the dame, and one for the little boy who lives down the lane. This song was actually about the increase in wool taxes from the 13th century English king, King Edward I. Basically, farmers would have to give away huge portions of their wool for free because nothing in life is ever fair. A third would go to the master, who was the king, a third would go to the dame, who was the church, and then the final third would be left to the farmer to make some money. 2/3 of your wealth gone before you even have a chance to flip it. That's some dirty stuff. At number 6 we have Rockabye Baby. Let's start this one off with the nursery rhyme, then we'll break it down after. Rockabye baby from the treetop, when the wind blows the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. Who's putting a baby on the top of a tree on a windy day and then just watching it? You don't even need to go into the backstory on this one to find the dark meaning. Well, just so you know, this nursery rhyme is apparently about King James II and Mary of Medina. They stole someone's baby, saying it was theirs, and then were presenting it as the one true king to the throne, someone who is next in line, their heir. So what's scarier, putting babies in trees during a hurricane, or stealing babies so you can lie to your nation and manipulate the people? You decide. At number 5 we have Georgie Porgy Pudding and Pie. Kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away. It sounds like a guy who was going around kissing people's girlfriends and then had to run away before some dude beat him up with a baseball bat. And the truth isn't that far off. Actually, it's way juicier. The background on this story has some hot tea, like let me tell ya. Apparently this is about the Duke of Buckingham, George Villiers. having a secret gay relationship with King James I. Oh my god, that's spicy. The girls that Georgie Boy was making cry were queens. God damn. At number 4 we have Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to get her poor dog a bone. When she got there, the cupboard was bare, so poor doggy had none. That's such a sad story. Why would you ever tell that to a kid? Kids should imagine that there's a world filled with happy doggos who have enough bones to eat every day. But thankfully, this nursery rhyme isn't about a sad dog. My heart could not bear the weight. It's actually about King Henry VIII and how the Catholic Church wouldn't let him get a divorce from his wife. So he made England abandon Catholicism, then he made the Church of England, then he started cutting off the head of every lady that would marry him until he ate so many fatty foods he got gout and died. Isn't that a nicer story? No, it definitely isn't. At number 3 we have Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown and Jill came tumbling after. We have another saucy one for you guys. Strap in. So this nursery rhyme is apparently about a couple in Old English times. It's estimated it would have been around the 1500s. These two would sneak off to go cheat on their spouses. Already juicy. Then what happened is Jill got pregnant. Jack killed himself from the stress of the situation, and then Jill dies while in childbirth, and then Jill dies while giving birth to their bastard son. This is some Game of Thrones level drama. At number 2 we have Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. I never got this one as a kid. I didn't know what a mulberry bush was, and I didn't know why people would want to walk around it. I figured mulberries were like the most amazing fruit. It was like a blackberry that got fused with a gusher and then got dipped in frosting and then deep fried. Why else would people want to walk around a bush like that all day? Well, it was because they had nothing better to do. Walking around the mulberry bush was a reference to a woman's prison, where exercise for the day would be a little jaunt around the bush before everyone was forced back into their cells. So mulberry bush was the exact opposite of something great. It was literally all they had. At number 1 we have Goosey Goosey Gander, whither dost thou wander? Upstairs and downstairs in my lady's chamber, where I met the old man who wouldn't say his prayers. I took him by the leg and threw him down the stairs. This one takes the number 1 spot because it really represents fear. After King Henry VIII made England leave the Catholic Church, there was a bunch of priests who refused to stop serving their god. Well, King Henry wasn't going to take this laying down, so he sent out a manhunt for these men. Priests were taken out into the streets and then killed for their beliefs. There was actually a hiding spot built into people's homes called a priest hole to try and keep the priests safe from the invading guards. This is crazy.